Hello, hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, the show here on Let's Talk Entertainment, where beginning way back in 2018, I've been attempting to read and review each of the roughly 600 short stories written by the late, great Ray Bradbury. Today we are up to story number 283, which is also the 24th of 25th stories in his 2002 collection, One More for the Road. Today's story is Diane de Foret. The way that these reviews work is I do a brief synopsis of what happens, sort of all the plot and character and action, and then I wrap up with just a very light analysis, some thoughts and feelings, what it all means, what I take away from it, is it a good story? And I mainly do this for my own entertainment, but I'm happy to learn that on occasion, some of you find these videos useful as well. I highly recommend that you choose an author and attempt to read and make videos about their entire body of work. It's a really sort of a rewarding sort of journey to go on. But here we go. Synopsis. A man touring a cemetery in Paris. The day gets old. It's getting a little bit dim. And the guards close the gates and he's left inside. And it feels like a perfect setup for a horror story, but this is no horror story. He's drawn to a very ornate marble or granite tomb containing the likeness of its inhabitant on the lid, who is Diane de Foret, and she lived from 1800 to 1818, dying at age 18 according to the inscription, and the tomb was carved by her lover. The narrator and Diane begin to seemingly have a whispered conversation with one another. It's not clear whether this is real or whether this is completely in his imagination, but she mistakes him for her lover who has been gone, and she sort of wonders why he didn't come back. And but he reveals himself to be actually a 73-year-old writer, and because that she has died at 18 and he is well on his way towards the grave himself, they will never meet sort of at the appropriate age level. And then the narrator inevitably goes for the gate and is let out of the gate, or out of the cemetery, but at one point she asked him, just before the end of the story, whether he had somebody waiting for him beyond the gates. And I don't know whether that was intended literally or figuratively, but he said, sadly, no one is waiting for him. So it is quite a sappy little story, but it is full of a beautiful sense of longing, which I kind of liked in a certain mood. I wouldn't fall for it every day. There's days where I definitely think, yeah, this is a little bit too sentimental for my taste, but it ultimately, I think it's okay. As with the case with most Bradbury stories, he has a very light touch, and so he can get away with things that you or I perhaps could not in our own writing. I was reminded a bit of Poe at the beginning, and maybe a little bit of Lovecraft, but ultimately, as I said earlier, it turned out to not be a horror story at all. It was actually just sort of like a ghost love story, and it could have possibly been completely in his imagination. I think that what I took away from the story is that if you're anything like me, I assume everybody is a bit like me. You've, at some point in your life, probably walked a cemetery, and you've seen these names and these dates and sometimes causes of death and sometimes other inscriptions from people who love them, and you sort of imagine from that little bit of detail what their life was like and who they were, and you sort of begin to make up this story about their existence in your imagination. And ultimately, the narrator was revealed to be a writer. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in the description, but he was revealed to be a writer, and so you can imagine him going home and writing a fictionalized story of this person's life, which, having died at 18, it's unlikely that there'd be much more information to be had about her. So a lot of it would ultimately be fiction, but also sort of it reveals how, visiting these old stones are a great source of inspiration. I myself have been writing a lot of haiku recently for my other channel, and you'd be surprised where points of inspiration come from, where they begin, and I think that a tombstone is a pretty good place to begin if you're looking for inspiration of a type. Then ultimately, I think in the end, one of the lessons here is about dying old versus dying young, and the idea that a person who dies young is sort of locked forever in that memory of youth and being in their prime or before their prime. Whereas the narrator being revealed as age 73, he's sort of staring down the barrel of eternity, and in his mind, the two of them could never meet. I like to imagine that, if you die and go somewhere, hopefully heaven, or somewhere equally nice, I like to believe that, maybe you are reborn, or you get to go on in your prime, in your best form, in your best state. I think that would be ideal. And perhaps it's a shifting thing based on mood and situation. Because you certainly, I would think, not want to be saddled forever with the bad parts of getting old, but nor would you want to be an infant entirely for the entirety of existence as well. So yeah, that's why you don't want to talk about the afterlife too much. Once you start thinking about it, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and you have to do a whole lot of finagling to make it work. But yeah, Diane de Foret, story number 2425. I hope that this review did something for you. I hope that you read the story as well, because Bradbury deserves to be read. Next time, the story will be The Cricket on the Hearth, which will bring to an end One More for the Road. And then after that, I will slide this little book over to its place for its forever home. Its eternity on my little bookshelf in the corner. But hopefully Bradbury's stories live on through these videos and through the text and through anybody who is willing to listen and to read. So thank you, and I'll see you again soon.